Daniel Hayes was the husband everyone admired. Melissa was the devoted wife who trusted him completely. But when detectives uncovered Daniel's secret apartment across town, their picture-perfect marriage shattered on what they found inside turned deadly. Daniel Hayes lived the kind of life that looked flawless from the outside. To neighbors and friends, he was dependable, kind, and hard-working. He carried himself with quiet confidence, the type of man people trusted without hesitation. Melissa, his wife, often spoke proudly of him. She believed she had found her lifelong partner, someone who loved her deeply and supported her in every way. Their home in the suburbs looked like the picture of stability. With neatly trimmed hedges, freshly painted shutters, and the warm glow of family life radiating from within, anyone driving by would have assumed it was a happy household without secrets. But appearances can be deceiving. Daniel's life was built on routine, and he was disciplined about keeping it that way. He left for work every morning at the same time, coffee in hand, tie neatly knotted, briefcase by his side. Melissa would wave from the front porch, content and unsuspecting. She never doubted that he was heading into a long day at the office. When he returned in the evenings, he always had detailed stories about stressful meetings, difficult clients, or late-night deadlines. His explanations made sense, and Melissa never had a reason to question him. Viewers, think about it for a moment. How often do we take the word of the people closest to us without hesitation? How well do we really know them? If you've ever had a moment when something didn't quite add up but you brushed it aside, let us know in the comments. Because for Melissa, those small details were invisible, and the trust she placed in Daniel blinded her to the truth. On the surface, Daniel seemed to be an attentive husband. He remembered anniversaries, bought flowers at just the right times, and even planned weekend getaways to keep their marriage alive. To Melissa, it felt like the perfect balance, a hard-working man who still made time for love. She bragged about his devotion to friends and relatives, reinforcing the image Daniel worked so hard to maintain. What no one realized was that every small gesture, every thoughtful surprise, was part of a carefully calculated mask. Behind that mask was a man hiding something far more complex than anyone could have imagined. Daniel wasn't staying late at work, nor was he grinding through endless projects, as he claimed. Instead, every so-called late night at the office ended with him driving across town, away from the life Melissa thought she knew, and into a different world altogether. He parked in a quiet street where no one knew his face, slipped a key into a door Melissa had never seen, and stepped into an apartment she didn't even know existed. Inside, the space told a story Melissa could never have imagined. It wasn't the bachelor-like mess one might expect. The apartment was orderly, furnished with care, and carried a sense of comfort. There were groceries in the refrigerator, personal belongings tucked into drawers, and items that suggested Daniel wasn't living there alone. For months, perhaps even longer, he had been maintaining two separate lives, each carefully kept apart from the other. One was the respectable husband, with a steady home in the suburbs. The other was a man indulging in secrecy, building an existence just far enough away to escape suspicion. The idea of a double life is unsettling, isn't it? Imagine someone you trust vanishing for hours, weaving stories to cover their tracks, and hiding evidence just out of reach. Have you ever wondered if someone in your own life could be doing the same? If this story already has you on edge, hit that like button. It helps us bring more true crime stories your way. Melissa had no reason to suspect anything. Daniel's lies were seamless, his explanations convincing. He even went so far as to bring home work files, spreading them across the dining room table to prove just how overloaded he was. Melissa often felt sorry for him, offering to cook his favorite meals or give him quiet time to unwind. In her eyes, he was sacrificing his health for their future. In reality, Daniel was managing his deception with precision. The cracks, however, were inevitable. Double lives cannot remain hidden forever. Daniel's meticulous planning could only hold up for so long before inconsistencies began to appear. A receipt in his wallet didn't match the story he told. A late-night text left unanswered raised a question in someone's mind, and though Melissa brushed aside these minor oddities, they were the earliest signs of the secret apartment that would soon come to light. But here's the chilling thought. Secrets like these rarely stay harmless. When someone hides an entire life from their spouse, the stakes grow dangerously high. In Daniel's case, the apartment was more than just a secret hideaway. It would become the epicenter of a deadly unraveling that no one in their quiet neighborhood could have predicted. By the time the truth surfaced, it was too late. A husband's carefully curated image was shattered. A wife's trust was betrayed beyond repair, and the quiet suburban life they had built together would be remembered only as the opening chapter in a story that turned violent. And this, viewers, is only the beginning. Stay with us, because what comes next will make you question everything you think you know about trust, betrayal, and the thin line between love and obsession. The secret apartment across town looked nothing like the home Daniel shared with Melissa, where their suburban house was filled with soft colors, family photos, and the small touches of a wife's care. The apartment had a colder, more modern feel. Dark furniture lined the living room, the walls were bare, and every item seemed chosen with caution rather than comfort. Yet it was functional, clean, and organized. The kind of place someone could slip in and out of without drawing much attention. To outsiders, it looked like a man's private retreat. But the truth behind that locked door was far more complicated. Neighbors in the building barely noticed Daniel. He came and went at odd hours, never inviting conversation. When asked, he told people he was a traveling consultant who worked irregular schedules. That excuse was just believable enough. But behind the closed curtains of that apartment, Daniel was not living alone. A woman named Claire had moved into his hidden life, believing she was building a future with a man who loved her completely. She had no idea she was sharing him with someone else miles away. Daniel's double life required discipline. He carefully divided his time, fabricating excuses for both women. To Melissa, he was the overworked husband, staying late at the office. To Claire, he was the loyal boyfriend, whose long absences were explained away by business trips. He maintained 2 sets of clothing, 2 schedules, 2 routines. Each detail was thought out, each lie rehearsed until it sounded natural. But the more he built these parallel worlds, the more dangerous the deception became. Viewers, ask yourself, how long could someone possibly manage this kind of balancing act? Could a man really keep 2 lives separate forever without leaving a trail behind? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Because for Daniel, the walls he built between Melissa and Claire were beginning to crack, and the fallout would be devastating. Claire believed Daniel was her one and only. She trusted his stories about travel, about late-night meetings, and about needing time away for work. She pictured a future with him, even spoke about marriage, children, and settling down together. Daniel fed into those dreams, promising her stability while knowing he had no intention of giving up his wife. Every promise he made tied her deeper into his world. She invested her emotions, her time, and her trust, never suspecting that another woman was living the life she imagined for herself. But suspicion has a way of creeping in. Claire noticed small inconsistencies in Daniel's behavior. A phone call he ignored. A weekend trip he canceled last minute. Clothes that didn't match the story he told. At first, she brushed them aside, convincing herself that stress and work explained everything. But doubt grew stronger with every unanswered question. She began to sense that Daniel was hiding something, and curiosity slowly turned into obsession. This is where the danger of a double life truly emerges. Lies can stretch only so far before someone pulls at the threads. Claire started searching for answers. She dug into his belongings, asked more questions, and paid closer attention to the details he shared. Eventually, she pieced together fragments that led her to Melissa. The discovery shattered her. The man she thought belonged to her was living a full marriage behind her back. And Claire was not his partner, but his secret. Think about it. What would you do in her position? Would you walk away quietly? Or would you confront the truth head-on? Tell us in the comments. Because Claire chose the path that would ignite a chain of events no one could stop. Her anger simmered, then boiled over. She confronted Daniel, demanding he end his marriage and choose her. Daniel, terrified of losing control, promised he would leave Melissa. But those were only words. He had no intention of destroying his comfortable suburban life, no matter how much Claire pushed. His goal was to stall, to calm her down, and to buy himself time. But time was running out. Claire's patience turned into rage. She felt betrayed, humiliated, and consumed by jealousy. She began following Daniel more closely, tracking his movements, and eventually driving to the neighborhood where Melissa lived. From her car, she watched the suburban home, saw Melissa walk in and out, and realized the depth of Daniel's betrayal. Each sight fueled her resentment, twisting her heartbreak into something far darker. And here lies the frightening truth. Daniel's lies had trapped him. Claire refused to let go. Melissa remained unaware, and Daniel stood between two women whose lives were about to collide. His secret apartment, once his escape, was becoming the very stage where everything would unravel. For months, Daniel believed he could keep the balance, but pressure was mounting from both sides. Claire wanted a future that Melissa already had. Melissa wanted stability Daniel could no longer maintain, and Daniel himself was spiraling, lying to both. Trapped in a cage of his own making, the danger of secrets is that they always demand a price. The more carefully Daniel hid the truth, the more violently it was destined to erupt. What began as a carefully constructed double life was transforming into a storm of jealousy and betrayal, and soon, that storm would turn deadly. If this story has you questioning how far someone might go to protect a lie, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because the breaking point is coming, and when it does, no one will walk away unscathed. Claire's discovery of Melissa was the spark that lit a fire no one could extinguish. What began as suspicion had turned into certainty, and certainty brought rage. She was not simply hurt. She was betrayed in the deepest way possible. The man she had invested her heart in, the man she believed would build a future with her, had been lying from the beginning. The shock twisted into obsession, and she refused to step away quietly. She confronted Daniel, demanding he end his marriage. He, desperate to keep his world from collapsing, told her exactly what she wanted to hear. He said he would leave Melissa, that he just needed time, that everything would soon be theirs. But Daniel was only stalling. He thought he could control the situation with words, the same way he had controlled it with lies for so long. Yet words were not enough. Claire began watching Melissa, following her routine, driving past her house late at night. She wanted to understand the woman who had everything she did not. From a distance, she saw Melissa jogging in the evenings, watering plants in the yard, waving to neighbors with a smile. It made Claire furious. To her, Melissa represented the life she had been promised, but could never truly have. The more she watched, the more her anger grew, until it consumed her thoughts entirely. Daniel knew he was in trouble. His lies were tightening around him like a noose. He tried to keep Claire calm with promises, while at the same time keeping Melissa oblivious with excuses about late meetings and work deadlines. But the weight of deception was crushing him. His secret apartment, once a place of control, was now filled with tension. Conversations with Claire turned into arguments. She accused him of playing both sides, and he denied it. But deep down he knew the truth. He was losing control. Viewers, here's a question. How far do you think someone would go when jealousy takes over? Do you believe obsession can push a person to violence? Comment your thoughts. Because what happened next in Daniel's story shows just how dangerous jealousy can become. One warm evening, Melissa went for her usual jog around the neighborhood. It was a routine she kept consistently, often running the same loop through quiet streets and into the nearby park. That night, she never came home. Hours passed, and when she didn't return, neighbors joined in the search. Her phone was found near a park bench, screen cracked, as if it had been thrown or dropped in a struggle. Panic spread quickly through the community. Melissa's disappearance became the center of local news. Posters went up, search teams combed the area, and police opened an investigation. Daniel played the role of the devastated husband perfectly. He pleaded for Melissa's safe return, gave emotional interviews, and worked with investigators as though he were desperate for answers. But the act began to crack when detectives noticed small inconsistencies in his statements. His timelines didn't add up. His accounts of the evening shifted slightly with each retelling. Suspicion started to grow. Detectives widened their search and began examining Daniel's background more closely. That was when they discovered something unusual: property records linking Daniel to an apartment across town. At first, it seemed like nothing more than an investment, but when investigators visited the location, what they found changed everything. Inside the apartment, they uncovered pieces of Melissa's life where they shouldn't have been. Her necklace sat on a nightstand. Strands of her hair were discovered on the carpet, and in a locked closet, investigators found bloodstains that would later be confirmed as hers. The discovery shocked even the most seasoned officers. Suddenly, the image of Daniel as the grieving husband shattered. He wasn't just hiding an apartment, he was hiding a crime scene. If you're still watching, hit that like button, because this is where the story takes its darkest turn. The news of the apartment stunned the community. How could a man so admired, a man who seemed to live a stable, loving life, keep such secrets? But the investigation didn't stop there. Evidence soon revealed that Claire had been at the apartment on the night Melissa disappeared. Surveillance cameras showed her car near the building, and neighbors reported seeing a woman entering with Daniel. Now the question shifted. Who was truly responsible for Melissa's disappearance? Was Daniel the mastermind, luring his wife to the apartment under false pretenses? Or was Claire the one who, driven by jealousy, finally confronted the woman she saw as a rival? Theories spread like wildfire. Some believed Daniel orchestrated the entire plan to rid himself of the life he no longer wanted. Others thought Claire, consumed by obsession, had snapped. What was clear was that Melissa's fate had been sealed the moment Daniel decided to build a second life. His deception had created a storm of lies, betrayal, and rage, and that storm had ended in tragedy. The case was far from over. Arrests would soon be made, accusations would fly, and in court, the truth would be twisted and debated. But by the time the trial began, one fact was undeniable. Daniel's secret apartment was no longer just a hideaway. It had become the stage for a crime that shocked everyone who thought they knew him, and the deadliest revelations were still to come. When investigators stepped inside Daniel's apartment, what they uncovered turned a missing persons case into a murder investigation. The necklace lying on the nightstand, the strands of Melissa's hair woven into the carpet fibers, and the bloodstains hidden in the closet painted a picture no husband could explain away. For detectives, it was no longer a matter of finding Melissa alive. It was about proving who had taken her life. The media swarmed the story, dubbing Daniel the double-life husband. His image as a devoted partner collapsed overnight. Friends and neighbors who once admired him now whispered about betrayal, deception, and the shocking reality that a man they thought they knew was capable of such. Darkness. The evidence against Daniel was overwhelming. He was arrested and charged with murder. But as the case moved forward, new details emerged that complicated everything. Surveillance footage showed Claire entering the apartment on the very night Melissa disappeared. Her car was spotted near the building, and her phone records placed her in the area at a critical time. Investigators faced a dilemma. Was Daniel solely responsible, or had Claire played a direct role in Melissa's death? The lines blurred, And the story that unfolded inside the courtroom was one of tangled motives and hidden truths. The prosecution argued that Daniel lured Melissa to the apartment, intending to kill her and end the marriage without facing the financial and social consequences of divorce. They painted him as a manipulator who built an entire second life to satisfy his desires while keeping his wife trapped in lies. To the jury, the blood evidence and Melissa's belongings left behind were undeniable proof. They claimed it was Daniel who staged the scene, who carried out the crime in the very place he thought would remain hidden forever. But the defense offered a different version. They pointed to Claire's obsession, her growing jealousy, and her documented surveillance of Melissa in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. They reminded the jury that Claire had access to the apartment, that her car was nearby, and that her presence on the night of the crime was not speculation but fact. They suggested Claire, enraged by betrayal, might have confronted Melissa and turned violent. In this version, Daniel was guilty of deception and betrayal, but not of murder. Viewers, here's the question: do you think Daniel orchestrated the crime, or was Claire the one who snapped? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because cases like this remind us how thin the line can be between truth and manipulation. As the trial progressed, tension gripped the courtroom. Each day brought shocking testimony. Witnesses described Claire's behavior as unstable in the weeks before Melissa vanished. Others testified about Daniel's lies and the way he juggled both women. For the jury, it was a puzzle filled with missing pieces, each one shifting the blame in a different direction. When the verdict came, the weight of the decision stunned the public. Daniel was convicted of murder. The jury believed he was the mastermind, the one who set everything into motion, and the person most responsible for Melissa's death. Claire, though her involvement remained suspicious, walked away without charges. Some saw her as another victim of Daniel's manipulation, while others believed she had escaped justice. The aftermath left more questions than answers. If Daniel truly acted alone, why was Claire's presence at the apartment never fully explained? If Claire played a role, how much of the truth was buried beneath the courtroom strategies and conflicting testimonies? The uncertainty has fueled endless debates. Even today, people argue over who was truly guilty. Was Daniel the cold-blooded killer, or was Claire the jealous lover who struck out in rage? One fact, however, is impossible to dispute. Daniel's double life led directly to tragedy. His secret apartment, once a sanctuary for lies, became a crime scene that destroyed everything he had built. Melissa's trust, Claire's obsession, and Daniel's deception all collided in that one place. A suburban home, a hidden apartment, and the lives tied between them became symbols of betrayal and violence. For those who knew Melissa, the loss was devastating. Friends remembered her as kind and full of life, a woman who never suspected the danger she lived beside. Her family struggled to reconcile the image of a stable marriage with the grim reality of Daniel's hidden world. They fought to preserve her memory, even as headlines focused on the shocking details of her husband's double life. The case remains one of the most haunting examples of how secrets can spiral out of control. Lies can be managed for a time, but they always demand a price. Daniel believed he could keep 2 women, 2 homes, and 2 lives apart forever. Instead, he created the conditions for disaster, whether he planned every step or simply lost control. The result was the same, a deadly unraveling that left one woman dead and another forever marked by the choices she made. And so the story closes on a chilling note. A husband's secret apartment across town was never just a retreat, never just an escape from responsibility. It was the very stage where deception turned into violence, where trust turned into betrayal, and where the truth, no matter how contested, was written in blood. Viewers, what do you believe? Was Daniel the mastermind, or did Claire carry a heavier hand than the courts acknowledged? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for more cases that reveal how far people will go to protect their lies. Because, as this story shows, The most dangerous secrets are often hiding in plain sight.